Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Isabel Wong.
And I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. Controversial mainland scientist who claims to have helped create gene-edited babies scheduled to speak at summit at HKU tomorrow.
Corruption trial of former Home Affairs Chief Patrick Ho starts in New York.
And Carrie Lam says Sunday's by-election results won't have any material impact on her future policies.
Local scientists have raised concerns about a Chinese researcher who've claimed to have helped create the world's first gene-edited babies.
He Jiankui was due to appear at an international summit on gene editing at the University of Hong Kong tomorrow. Raymond Yeung reports.
I understand my work will be controversial, but I believe family need this technology.
Chinese researcher He Jiankui posted this video on Sunday, claiming to have developed the world's first genetically edited babies. He named the twin girls who were born this month Nunu and Nana, but they were pseudonyms. He said it was to protect their privacy. The professor in Shenzhen said the girl's father was an HIV carrier, and the researcher altered a gene of the two babies to prevent them from getting the virus that causes AIDS.
I feel a strong responsibility that it's not just to make it first, but also make it as example how to perform like this, consider morality of the society, and consider its impact to the public.
The revelation came ahead of the second international summit on human genome editing that began at the University of Hong Kong today. He is scheduled to give a speech there tomorrow. It remained unknown whether his claim was true, since his work was not published in a journal where it would have been vetted by other experts. Some Hong Kong scientists have raised concerns about He's claim. The director of Chinese University's Center of Bioethics, Derek Au, said gene editing was still in its infancy and its accuracy and safety were unclear. Geneticist Trey Lap Chi, who was also founding president of the Academy of Sciences, refused to comment on He's work until he listened to his speech. But Trey reminded He to be responsible for his statement. U.S. biologist David Baltimore, who chairs the summit's organizing committee, said they were unaware of what He would talk about tomorrow.
I haven't seen any of the research, and I don't know what he's planning to claim.
He studied in the U.S. before returning to mainland China to open a lab at Southern University of Science and Technology of China in Shenzhen. The university distanced itself from He, saying the scientist had seriously violated academic ethics and standards, and it was not involved in his gene editing work. Raymond Yeung, HKIBC.
The high-profile corruption trial of former Home Affairs Minister Patrick Ho has begun in New York.
His lawyer argued that the payments made to African officials were not bribes, but were donations. Former Home Affairs Secretary Patrick Ho has been in U.S. custody for over a year. He was charged by U.S. federal prosecutors last November for bribing African officials in exchange for favors and opportunities to a Chinese energy firm. Ho arrived at a federal court in New York today wearing a purple shirt instead of a prison uniform. After a selection process which lasted 4 hours, 12 main jurors and 3 substitutes were picked for the trial. Ho has denied 8 charges of conspiracy, money laundering, and violating the U.S. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. In his opening statement, prosecutor Paul Hayden described the case as one about corruption, money laundering, and bribery. He alleged that Ho had offered $2 million in October 2014 to the president of Chad to secure exclusive oil rights in the African nation on behalf of CEFC China Energy, one of the biggest private firms on the mainland. Ho allegedly paid $400,000 to Cheikh Gadiel, the former foreign minister of Senegal, to set up the meeting. Gadiel has since reached a deal with the prosecution and will testify against Ho. In a separate scheme, Ho allegedly facilitated a $500,000 payment to Uganda's Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa to also secure business advantages for CEFC. The bribe was made shortly after Kutesa had completed his term as President of the United Nations General Assembly in 2014, thus linking the case to the global organization. But defense lawyer Benjamin Rosenberg said the payments were merely charitable donations. This is a bribery case with no bribe. Ho and his colleagues asked for nothing and received nothing, he said in his opening statement. Rosenberg argued that part of Ho's job as head of a non-profit body funded by CEFC was to network. But the prosecution disagreed, saying his title was to pass himself off as a humanitarian. The defense agreed before the trial that it would not argue about the timing of the prosecution, since some analysts have speculated that this was part of a broader political campaign launched by the US against China. Prosecutors said they intended to present emails, text messages, and financial records as part of their case. A recorded call allegedly of Ho would also be used as evidence against him. The trial is expected to last 2 weeks.
The government has confirmed that a long-term public housing supply target it had endorsed last year could not be met. The government's long-term housing strategy had put forward a target of building